Detroit Lions, Baltimore Ravens, Monday Night Football. Everything you need to know for your fantasy teams and player picks in 15 minutes. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these for every single primetime game, as well as every game on Sunday, giving you a unique edge by looking at run scheme metrics, coverage data, and overall statistical trends that not a lot of people talk about because it relates to the scheme behind the numbers that we all see on the internet. Without further ado, let's get into it. As you guys know, all of my picks and predictions are on my socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. There's a link in the description. Make sure you're locked in. There'll be entries, fun picks, first touchdowns, all on there. Lions defense, the only data outliers I have for this game is that they're giving up the 8th most wide receiver yards. I don't want to take that lightly. Obviously, Rome Odunze had a great game against them last week. Jaden Reed had a chunk play against them week 1. That is really the big edge that I want to talk about and look at in this game. In terms of the coverage data, they play the 7th most man-to-man. The identity really hasn't changed that much since, I guess, 22, but really 23. They like playing man. They like lining up across from your players, your playmakers, and saying, okay, go beat us. And to be honest with you, a lot of teams do. In terms of who gets the most targets against man, it's Zay Flowers, but Zay Flowers is always going to get the most targets really against anything. The biggest uptick against man-to-man coverage are 2 guys. Number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't even have his own target. But number 2, Devontae Walker. 2 targets, 2 touchdowns, both versus man-to-man, wildly explosive against man because of the numbers. However, it's easy to be explosive when you only have such a small sample size, but they play the 12th most middle field close. It's going to be a loaded box for Derrick Henry in this game. Does it matter? I'm not convinced. We're going to talk about Derrick Henry's numbers at the end, but it is important to note that these pass catchers are really good against man. Those are the guys you got to look at against man if you're looking at the Baltimore Ravens without Isaiah Likely on the roster, who seems like is going to play this week. So that might throw a wrench into things. Let's talk target rates, though. In terms of out wide targets, the Lions, comparatively, that's where they're being targeted at the highest rate, the 14th highest in the league. The Baltimore Ravens, oddly enough, are throwing there at the highest rate in the league. Not something I would expect from a Baltimore Ravens team, but when you add DeAndre Hopkins, when Zay Flowers is running some of the routes from the outside, and you have Rashad Bateman, another really good number 2, who has the most routes from the outside, you're going to throw the ball there. Again, Bateman, 32 routes from the outside. Zay Flowers, 28. D-Hop, high participation, meaning he's running like 70-ish% of his routes from the outside, but just overall, not a ton of routes. Tez Walker, again, 100% of his routes from out wide. He's been targeted on 2 of the 5 routes he's run, 5+ yards per route run, and he has 2 touchdowns. In terms of the other targets, I'm not really leaning too much into it. Nothing in the slot, nothing really in line. Backfield, kind of, but do you really want to lean into Justice Hill in a man-to-man heavy game? I'm not going to be honest with you. I'm really not. Lamar is going to throw the ball down the field against this defense. What's really interesting, though, are the run scheme metrics. I'm going to blow this up a little bit for you guys, too. Very interestingly, the Detroit Lions have been okay against the run. This is a defense that we've known to stop up the run, force you to beat you over the top, and they usually get beat over the top. They've just been okay. And in terms of the man gap stuff, which the Ravens do run less of compared to their zone stuff, there is a big marriage there for explosive runs, potential big plays. I think Derrick Henry could just rip one off. And again, the Ravens are 5.5-point favorites in this game, which, again, I agree. I think the Ravens are going to win this game. If that's the case, taking some air out of the football, I don't know, man. I don't know. I do really like this matchup for Derrick Henry. We'll talk those numbers at the end here in a second. In terms of the red zone data, the most routes in the red zone are the 2 tight ends. It's Mark Andrews, obviously. It's Charlie Kolar. But now with Isaiah Likely in, how does that change? Does that change much? I think it does, to be honest with you. Isaiah Likely is an enormous athletic player. He's going to get routes. He's going to get opportunities in the end zone. And looking at comparative projections here, 2-1 to score a touchdown in his first game of the year. Vegas respects him. We should too. I think Isaiah Likely has a big part in this pass game. However, how much is the pass game going to be a thing if the Ravens defense plays really well or at home on prime time? And this is a game where the Ravens are ahead. How much is that pass offense? How much volume will it have? That's my question. So when I look at Zay Flowers, I like the 68.5 number for receiving yards. All of his big 100-yard games from last year came against very man-heavy teams. But at the same time, can you trust pass volume in the Ravens offense? I don't know. His longest reception, though, very similar hit rate to that 69 number, 23.5. I think that could happen very, very, very easily against this team. D-Hop, +425 for a touchdown. I really like that. The only pick that I think I'm going to get on straight here, other than like touchdown scores, two actually, excuse me. I like Derrick Henry's rush yards. He's at 84.5 by the time I'm recording this video, probably going to be up to, I don't know, 87, 88. I'd still take it. But Lamar, against man-heavy teams, quarterbacks tend to have better rushing performances. And I think against this Detroit Lions team, again, after a bad rushing week last week for both Lamar and Derrick Henry, it's going to be a point of emphasis. And I think they're going to wind up winning this game, controlling the clock, controlling the game. It's going to have to be a big part of the game plan. I love Lamar rushing for 40 yards. And I love Derrick Henry rushing for 85. Tez Walker, some places for a touchdown is plus 2,000, though. I'm on it. Like, it depends where you're getting it. Again, this is not financial or professional advice, but I'm on it. Like, this is a good spot for a guy who, I'm not just saying this because he scored 2 touchdowns in 2 games. This is a really good spot for a guy who has a great matchup. Like we just talked about, he's running 100% of his routes from the outside, every single one. He's very good against man. Big uptick against man. 5+ yards per route run. He's explosive. He's quick. He can't be covered one-on-one. I really like it. Let's talk Ravens defense here in terms of data outliers. Take a sip of this coffee. Second most pass attempts given up, third most yards, second most running back receptions given up, sixth most running back receiving yards, fourth most tight end receptions, and the third most tight end yards. In terms of coverage data, they play the 6th most man-to-man, second most middle field close. They're going to do everything they can to stop up the run. When you look at the run scheme metrics, scroll down a little bit here. Where they go? They're solid. Defensively, they're solid. Again, a little bit worse than the Lions, but solid. And I'm looking at this Lions offense as somebody who just had an amazing game through the air. Like Jared Goff is playing really good football. Now, on the road, primetime is very different than at home, 1 o'clock against the Chicago Bears. But in terms of the pass attempts, pass yards, Goff is going to have to air the football out. Where does he go? That's the question. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, you look at the man-to-man rate. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 targets, 5 routes, huge in terms of yards per route run. But Jahmyr Gibbs has a much heavier uptick compared to David Montgomery in running back receptions against man compared to zone. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 1.5 yards per route run. And in a game where, again, you lean into the game flow, the Lions are probably going to be passing. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. So we'll talk about his number at the end, but I'm taking it straight. Like, I like Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. Isaac Tesla, very interesting. 1 target, 1 route against man, 7.5 yards per route run. He, to me, is a guy who had a pretty significant uptick in snaps last week, starting to take snaps from Khalif Raymond, We're seeing how good Tesla can be. All it takes is 1, and we'll talk about his number at the end too, because it's very low. All it takes is 1. He's very clearly a good jump ball receiver, and Goff trusts him in those senses. Look, in a game where they might be trailing, I like it. But the most important thing here is Jameson Williams. So much unknown with JMO so far this year. We thought against a Chicago team that played a lot of zone, he probably wouldn't have this crazy game. He averaged how many yards? 40-something. Like, it was pretty ridiculous. Against Green Bay, very similar thing. Didn't have a great game. There's a lot of uncertainty with Jameson Williams. And then you look at the target rates, and it gets even more uncertain because the only marriage here is the backfield rate, right? Ravens being targeted at the 7th highest rate out of the backfield. Lions throwing it there at the 12th highest rate. Like, that's the only place where you're like, the Lions like to do this. The Ravens give this up here. Okay, it mixes well together. Now, Gibbs has double the routes, double the targets, higher targets per route run than David Montgomery just overall. Technically, David Montgomery more efficient in terms of yards per route run, but Jahmyr Gibbs very clearly is the pass catching back. In terms of the run scheme metrics, again, I don't think the Lions are going to have a ton of success on the ground against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have stopped up the run pretty well in the past. The Lions are running the ball well, but at the same time, like, they ran the ball poorly against the Packers, and they ran it well against a bad Bears defense. Like, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. Again, I think the Lions will have some success on the ground. The offensive line is great. You got 2 talented backs, but they're going to wind up needing to throw the ball in this game, I think. Now, again, JMO, tied for first in terms of red zone routes, just not a lot of targets yet. In terms of comparative projections, I really do like Jahmyr Gibbs at 22.5 in this game, right? He's hit it in 1 of 2, but you love the game flow. Last year, he hit it in 11 of 18. I think this is a really good spot for him, especially because he is the running back they will throw to against man. I mean, just think about him on a linebacker versus David Montgomery on a linebacker. Who would you rather have? You'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs, the guy who's quicker and a better route runner. That's where Jared Goff likes to go with the football against man. When he throws to the running back position, I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Jameson Williams, I want to get on him in some aspect. I want to get on him in some aspect. And after I go through these lines, I'm going to talk to you guys about watered down legs that I'd like to put together for this game, which is very important as well. So make sure you stay for that. But Jamison Williams' longest reception of 22 and a half. 1 of 2 this year against zone heavy teams. Zone heavy teams. Now he gets a team where you just go one-on-one, go win. I like it a little bit more. Game flow is going to help. He's hit this in 9 of 16 last year. And he's outside more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is important to understand. Now, when you look at his overall receiving yards, the hit rate is higher. Again, 1 of 2 this year, but 10 of 16 in 2024. It's scary. I want to get on JMO in some capacity. And honestly, scrimmage yards might be the way we do it, which I will post on my Twitter. So make sure you're following on there if we do get on that. I like Jamison Williams just based off his explosive ability and truthfully the lack of ability for this Ravens defense to cover a true speed guy like that. I think Jamison Williams is an awesome matchup. Laporta, 4.5 receptions. I would lean into that if you're in the camp where you think this is going to be a huge blowout. I think it's going to be a one-possession blowout where the Ravens control the clock. I don't think this is a game where the Ravens are going to win by like 17 or 20 points like they did against the Browns. If you think that's going to be the case, Laporta, it's going to be just like the Packers game for Laporta where Goff is just pitching it out to him. Isaac Tesla, again, though, 13.5 yards. Longest reception, I believe, is 10.5 maybe. Got to get on one of the two. I think I'm going to get on the 13.5 just straight. Again, everything will be on my Twitter. But that is it. Looking at the watered down lines, though, very quickly, if I'm putting everything in an entry together, it's going to be Lamar rushing yards watered down, Derrick Henry rushing yards watered down, probably a couple Gibbs receptions, and then probably a Sam Laporta receiving yard watered down. But that is everything you need to know for this game. Ravens, Lions, Monday Night Football. I will be there. If you see me, say what's up. I appreciate you guys watching and listening. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week for next Thursday Night Football. Seahawks, Cardinals.